Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A, we answer fans questions. A lot to talk about on today's show. Somehow this offseason gets weirder. And you know what? It seems like scoring 70 points at home against Denver just feels like miles away at this point, coming off the season that we were coming off of. Leading into this offseason, which really has been almost very much like the season. Disappointing this past season. Even though I didn't mind the free agency. But whatever. There's still a lot going on, it seems, within the organization. And it seems like they're having a lot of internal issues. So let's get into it. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Jalen Ramsey didn't request a trade, which makes this story even weirder. Chris Grier said, quote, it's in the best interest of all parties. Okay, really weird thing to say at a press conference. Chris Grier went on to say about Jalen Ramsey, if he isn't traded, he said, quote, if he's here, we'll deal with it. Just glowing remarks about Jalen Ramsey. A post-draft trade would likely make the most sense for Miami. The team has $16.5 million in salary cap space, and a chunk of that will needed to be had to sign the rookie class. As a result, the $25 million of dead cap resulting from a pre-June 1 trade would be financially untenable without additional roster maneuvering. A post-June 1 trade would save $9 million in 2025 with a $6 million dead cap charge, with the remaining $18 million in dead money being pushed to 2026. An acquiring team would pick up Ramsey's $1 million salary, $800,000 in workout and pregame roster bonuses, and a fully guaranteed $19 million option bonus due on August 31st. Ramsey will be owed $66 million from 2026 to 2028. Through none of that money is guaranteed. I don't even know where to start. So, which that's all very confusing. Like, I don't know how much dead cap they would have. I mean, it's not guaranteed money. It says Ramsey will then be owed $66 million from 2026 to 2028. Through none of that money is guaranteed. Okay. So how much is dead cap? I don't know. The article doesn't explain that. I'm not here to explain the rules of the salary cap. I'm just here as a Dolphins fan for many years, trying to rationalize what is going on. Like, first of all, where do we even start with? The whole Jalen Ramsey thing makes no sense. They just made him not only did they make him the highest paid corner, it was because of him complaining is the reason that they even did it. If you guys remember that. Which was a bad idea. I didn't even like that extension when it happened. We had too many young players that were coming up in contracts. Obviously, Javon Holland, who ends up signing as a Giant for much cheaper than Jalen Ramsey's contract, and he's a much better player, and he has he's going to be in the NFL a lot longer than Jalen Ramsey is at this point. So just think about that decision. Just that decision alone is just poor management by Chris Grier. It just is. Why would you extend Jalen? It makes no sense. Even before we traded for him. By the way, we got him very cheap. Even before we traded for him. We knew that he wasn't in the prime of his career anymore. But he's still a good player. Still a very good player. This past season, he took a step back. It always has seemed from his press conferences and just Jalen Ramsey's had this problem with everywhere he's been. He seems to get sick of or doesn't want to be around. I don't know. I mean, the report says that he didn't request a trade, but it never really seemed like he wanted to be a Dolphin. He just never really seemed that way. This has been an absolute disaster. The extension was a disaster. I don't even know what to say. Like, it makes no sense. Like, now getting out from under it, a week, like what, 2 weeks before the draft. When was this even reported? Very recently. We'll say like a week and a half before the draft, or a week before the draft, this happens. It's just bad. Now, I'm sure this has been a thing for a lot longer than that. And we were somehow, because of Miami reporting, we're just now, like, if this was any, like, if this is like, I don't know, pick a other big market team in the media, I feel like they probably would have figured this out quicker. But, yeah. A very weird quote from Chris Greer. If he's here, we'll deal with it. So we're going to follow this new story up with another one that is obviously related to this. I mean, I'm going to continue because there's so many things connecting, which makes this bad for the Dolphins. Not only does it dead cap money, $18 million in dead cap money next year, but it also messes the draft up too. Teams, okay, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. Teams unwilling to pay full 2025 compensation for Dolphins Jalen Ramsey. Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports confirmed that they were aware of Miami's desire to move on dating back to the Combine. It'll be interesting to see if in the coming days sparks an increase in Ramsey's market. So people, I guess, knew about this for a long time. Nobody wants to pay him. It doesn't seem like a trade is imminent, according to these reports. I don't really know what contender would want him. I mean, maybe if, like, I don't know, really. I mean, he's still a good player, and he really is more of a complimentary piece at this point in his career. It just was just a bad idea. It was just a bad idea. And, you know, I've seen a lot of people bring up, like, first, this was one of the worst, like, if he's traded soon, this is one of the worst, like, front office moves in Dolphins history. It's got to be top 10. It's probably lower top 10. It's definitely not high top 10, but it's up there. We got nothing out of this. We just wasted money. And you normally, God bless him, Chris is pretty good at especially since he tore everything down in 2019. Ever since then, he's been pretty good at managing the salary cap for the most part. And yeah, this is his worst move in a long time. I'm trying to think of another in recent years since 2020. This is probably his worst move. And just to be able to be like, and clearly Jalen Ramsey doesn't want to be here anymore. I know the article reported that, but the fact that Chris Greer says we'll deal with it, like, who knows? Like, last year was such a disaster. Like, who knows how many locker room issues that kind of popped up from that. I would love to interview Calais Campbell about last year. If I had to interview one Dolphin right now, I'd be Calais Campbell. Just to be like, what is going on? Like it doesn't make any sense. Chris Greer is has had a very strange career. He's had some really high highs, and then some dumb things. Honestly, it's like he got halfway up the hill, but just couldn't finish the journey. Like, we were moving in the right direction, but we just got kicked all the way back. It just feels like we got kicked all the way back down the hill again. And he had it, and he just didn't capitalize on it when we needed him to. Like, I feel like after last year, and honestly, I don't know. Like, how many people actually make that Jalen Ramsey trade? A lot, but how many people extend him? Not that much. They didn't have to. They didn't give up that much for him. And you had him for, what was it? Basically a season. And he played okay. Like, he played fine. Just what a disaster. And then the ramifications of this being on the draft. Like, one thing that Chris has sucked at drafting is corners. His biggest hit was Xavier Howard. Outside of that, I don't really, like, maybe you could argue Kader Kohu, and I guess you could say Nick Needham. Not saying those players are bad, but his early round draft corners are terrible, like his track record. And how much you put into stock of him, like, when did he actually start? His thing is like, oh, I didn't actually have draft power until, what? I guess Brian Flores? I don't even know what his argument is. His early round corner track record is awful. I mean, think about Igbenogany and Cam Smith alone. Those are awful picks. So now I'm just like worried that we're going to reach for a corner in the first round. Because it's a huge hole now if Jalen Ramsey isn't going to be on the team. And honestly, sooner or rather than later, we were going to have to move on from him anyway. I don't even think his position is corner. I feel like he's a nickel safety at this point in his career. So either way, it still would have been nice to have him. We could have kept him happy. I think that would have been the best case scenario because you already extended him. It's like, dude, you can't run an organization and have these weird mood swings of like, and again, you knew who you were getting personality-wise when you traded for him, because that's another part of this trade that, you know, has to be thought about. Like, if we're trading, it's like this guy kind of, he literally held out until he was traded in the middle of the season, just stopped playing until he was traded from Jacksonville. Like, this is the kind of guy we're getting. And you extend him? He's on the backside of his career. Like, it doesn't make any... And you make him the highest paid corner in the NFL. What are we doing? Like, it makes no sense. And now, we needed good players in this offseason. And I thought, you know, his free agency this year was actually pretty good. I know people were disappointed in it. I liked it. We got a really good guard. We got decent safeties who can start in this league. That's a W. I think that's a really good, and we got a pretty good receiver who I think who's young and up and coming. So that's good. But this is and then the Tyreek Hill stuff, which I don't even want to talk about anymore. Like, who, by the way, they said in this press conference, he said that Tyreek Hill is not going to be traded. No duh, dude. Like, honestly, and I'm going to be real honest right now. I'm just going to be honest with everybody. If I was in control of this team, I might start over. Like, I'm just going to be completely honest. I think I would have sold the older players off the team. I definitely would have retained Holland. And I would have gotten rid of Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill. And just ate the bullet. Because he's put us in this situation. It's like, dude, we might as well get out from under it right now. I love Tua. I think he's a good player. Let's just strip it down. Get these old locker room problems out of the building. And yeah, maybe we win 7 games or 6 games this year. Whatever. At least we get out from under, because at some point they're going to have to do that anyway. And how much of this is Chris Greer even playing for? Like, is his job even in jeopardy? Like, if Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill has made such a problem now, Jalen Ramsey, it's like, I'm being honest. Like, that's probably how I would have handled it. And which isn't great, because you have a quarterback who's in the prime of his career. You just extended him to a large contract. I definitely would have built around Tua in the draft and this offseason. I think I would have made that a point, especially up front. And who knows, maybe Mike McDaniel, who I think is a good coach, maybe he puts together a really good season now that these guys are out of the locker room. He's got a younger team, and we got a good quarterback. He's got a great relationship with the head coach. And then you just start over. And I think that's good. That would have been good for Tua. We've heard about his leadership stuff. It would have been good to cleanse the organization. Let Tua take control of the team. Get younger. Mike becomes a better leader. He gets a younger team. So I think maybe that was the move. And of course, that's not how they're handling it right now. But if Jalen Ramsey is a locker room problem, get him off the team. You're creating a bad culture. And I fear that that's kind of a problem right now. And that's why I would have loved to talk to Calais Campbell and be like, how bad is the locker room? Because, it was bad enough that Tyreek Hill, who benched himself and then had a meltdown like a baby after the game. So, like it's not in a good place. And if Chris was a good GM, if this was Pat Riley running the Dolphins, like, those guys wouldn't be on the team anymore. And for the better, dude. They're just names at this point. And yeah, you made the really bad decision of paying these guys all this money and extending them, but you got to look at what you got in front of you. And like I said, I think it would have been the better thing to do would be just to get rid of them and just give the organization to your quarterback and to your head coach. And honestly, I would be much happier with that than where they are right now. So I'm actually, you know what? After talking myself into this, I'm rooting for this. Get rid of them both. It can't be worse than last year. It just can't. Build around Tua, build around Mike McDaniel's scheme, and we'll just score a bunch of points this year. How about that? Let's fix this offensive line. Let's get the run game going, and let's go. Like, that would be the dream. I just hope we don't hang on to this like hanging on to what? What are we hanging on to? Dude, the house is on fire. It's time to get the valuables out. Let's get everything we can salvage out of there, dude. God. Help us in the draft, okay? I just hope we have a good draft. We have a lot of draft picks. We have 10. Which brings up this next news story related to the draft. Dolphins reportedly are interested in picking a quarterback in day 2 of the NFL draft, whether it's a third or second round pick. They have, and we've talked about this before, but they have been rumored and heavily rumored to be interested in a quarterback this draft. There was even an article about Shedeur Sanders at one point. I don't know how valid that was, but they've definitely, I think it's definitely been a continuing thread throughout the draft, or throughout the reporting this year on the Dolphins, is they are interested in the quarterback, and this comes from Pro Football Rumors. And I've said this many times, excuse the pug, I've said this many times, but if Cam Ward could somehow fall to 13, which is impossible, I really do think the Dolphins would think about it. Or at least I think they would just pick him. But yeah, it's just weird that they've been so heavily connected to quarterbacks in this draft. Where's the list here? They visited with Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, Jalen Milroe, and Dylan Gabriel, who, like, I know most of those guys are third round picks, except probably I think all of them are. I don't think any of that, maybe someone reaches for them in the second. So I know people hate when I bring this up, or if, it's not the best, like the worst or the best opinion, I guess, but it's my opinion. It's what I believe. I think Jalen Milroe, out of all of those guys in that group, is the best player and has the higher ceiling. And I would love if they got him in the third round. I think that's a great pick. Plus, he's a player that they can use right now in the red zone, and they could do a lot of really cool packages with him, which is great. So, and he has a lot of upside. So, I like the Jalen Milroe pick. I'm not a fan of. I like Dylan Gabriel. I think he's an interesting player. Other than that, I'm not a huge fan of Quinn Ewers or Colin McCord. So that's just my opinion. But I'm not mad at a third round quarterback pick. But I think the first 2 picks should not be a quarterback. At least in my opinion. The only way, Cam Ward would be the only guy I would consider in the first round. I like Tua, so I guess maybe if you don't like Tua, you would pick Sanders, but Cam Ward would be the only thing that could sway me into picking a quarterback in the first round. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's not great. And the Jalen Ramsey thing, I hope doesn't affect the draft a lot. And you know what? The good news is, guys, and as I sip the coffee here, the good news is I love Coach Weaver. I think he's a really good coach. He's a great culture, and he's a really good game plan guy. He had his defense was not very talented, and he got as much as he could out of that group, and more. So, and I love Mike McDaniel on the offensive side of the football, and he's never gotten a fair shake since he's been the head coach. He's really had to mask some real issues, and we've never matched the personnel with the way he wants to play football, and I hope that changes this year, and we'll see in the draft if it does. But there's good coaching from the defense and offensive head guys, really exceptional coaching, and that's our saving grace right now. And we have a really good young quarterback who I like. We've got some good young offensive players. We don't need to be locked. Chris Greer might be the problem. We don't need to be locked to these the older veterans who are hurting the team, from the salary cap to the locker room. They need to go. Like, if you guys don't want to be here, stop crying and whining about it and posting stuff on the internet all the time. Like, we get it. So act like I don't understand. It just gives me a migraine. I don't care how great the player is. If you're just gonna run your organization through the mud, and that's probably half the reason why Javon Holland wasn't re-signed. It's just like, just leave. Like, why would? And again, like I said, I think you got to build around what you have, and I don't know. We'll see what happens in the draft. Like, I'm interested to see what quarterbacks that they really love. They've visited with a lot of them that we just mentioned. That's an interesting point in the draft. The first round pick seems to be a mystery. A lot of reports on, what's his name? The Georgia safety. I love Will Campbell. There's two corners that I really like in this draft. Three. I love Will Johnson. If the Dolphins pick Will Johnson, I'm totally fine with that. I think he's a very good pick. I know he's got, the injury stuff is kind of weird, but he's a very, very good player. So that would be like an A+ pick. I love the Kentucky corner who they can get in the second round. He's really good. And I think, that would be a really, really good pick. I just hope they don't reach the other corner. He's escaping me. I can't remember his name. I don't like the Texas guy. And I really should have written down their names. But there's some corners in this draft that I think are going to be like, I'm like, all right, like, let's not pick. Who's the corner that? God, I can't remember the corner we picked at Clemson, and let's not pick Igbenogany, who was never viewed as a corner anyway. Cam Smith, who's been a disaster. Let's not reach for a corner. Because even then, I can't remember who was on the board when we picked Cam Smith, but I remember being upset. I remember there being better players at that position. So I'm really worried about that. I think worst case scenario is we reach for a corner. Everything else that we've been reading about, like who the Dolphins have been like super interested in, I'm like, yeah, those are good players. The Georgia kind of dude, I'm blanking. What is his name, dude? I don't remember. The Georgia safety. I'm sorry, guys. I'm all over the place. That's fine. Hey, somehow they picked Tyler Warren. I don't think they would in a million years, even though I think it's a great scheme fit. That's still a really good pick. Ashton Jeanty, great pick. Banks from Texas, the tackle. I'm happy with that. That's a really good pick. There's not a whole lot of like, oh God, you know what I mean? Like, why would we pick him? But you never know. Okay, I didn't like the Chop Robinson pick last year, but he turned out to be a really good football player, like a really, really good football player. So, and he almost won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Verse didn't go like Verse and Chop. I was really hoping Chop would get it, but Chop was really good last year. So you never know. Like, just because someone's hyped up, I mean, doesn't mean they're going to be a great player. But with my eyeballs and the players that I've watched, I love Will Johnson. I love Campbell. Banks is great. Will Johnson, I already mentioned Will Johnson. Is it Starks, the safety, the Georgia safety, I really like. So yeah, I like Tyler Warren. I like the Arizona receiver. He's really good. I've always really liked him. Genty's great. I don't think the Dolphins would pick him, but I mean, I'm not mad at that pick. I'm all in on offensive line though, so that's my dream star scenario. Dream scenario is offensive line. I think that's for most Dolphins fans. Okay scenario, or not even okay, or good scenario would be one of those players at a different position, whether it's like a Will Johnson or a Warren or anybody who's not an offensive lineman, but that's still the Georgia safety. Like, those are good picks, even though they're not the position that I would want them to pick. Worst case is a reach for one of these pass rushers or a defensive tackle or a corner. I think that's worst case scenario. It would be one of those situations. I hope that by the time next week comes that I'm talking positively about the draft, please, like, I hope we have a sick draft. I really, really hope. Shout out to the North Carolina running back. I can't remember his name. I can't remember anybody's name. The North Carolina running back, I think he's a really good player too. I would hate if we picked him at 13. Don't get me wrong. But if somehow he could fall to the second round, not mad at that. Not mad at that. There's a lot of guards I like in the second round as well. So offensive line dream isn't dead. If we don't pick one in the first round, we could still get a quality player in the second round. And that's kind of been Chris Kerr's MO anyway. He's picking like Robert Hunt and obviously Patrick Paul in recent memory. Both of those guys are in the second round. So we'll see what happens. I just hope we address the offensive line in a smart way, and it's not Liam Eichenberg, and we're like, oh my god, But can we get someone who can play, please? And like I said, tailor it to Mike McDaniel, dude. He's a great coach. He's a very smart coach. Just give him what he needs. So that's it. It's not the end of the way. It sucks, the dead cap thing, but I think we should all just get Jalen Ramsey, get out of here. We were giving up way too many points to Buffalo anyway. Who cares? And then Tyreek Hill. I don't even know what to think about Tyreek Hill at this point. He's literally like a Looney Tunes character. He's crazy. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. And hopefully Tyreek Hill locks. If he is going to be a Dolphin this year, let's hope we don't get a lazy Tyreek Hill season and we get like a healthy, locked in, not an off the field issue season. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.